why don't people like us? And what I mean by that, you're going to have to wait for on this episode of My Disney Addiction Podcast.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on?
Whoa.
What just happened?
You just broke my mind. I was waiting for the other half of that.
What was the other half?
All right.
No.
All right.
All right. All right, y'all. What up? What up?
Hey, it's your boys, me, the Disney Detective, and he.
Chris, that number one ghost host.
With the most. That's no joke.
That's what's
Joke. I was trying to rhyme.
Yeah, it failed.
I know, English.
It's all right. Hey guys, we are back. Before we do anything, make sure you like, comment, subscribe below. It's very quick. Just boom, you can be done like that.
Do it, yep, so you can make sure that you get all of our updates, all of our posts, because this is going to be a great year for the podcast. I can feel it.
Again.
Yes.
All right, guys. So, what I mean by that, there are people who just don't like people like us.
No.
And it's just fine. It's fine. I get it. I'm cool with that. What I mean by that is me and Greg are Disney people. People who are watching this are Disney people.
You guys get it.
But there are some people who just don't get it.
Why is that?
And there's multiple reasons for that, Greg. So let's
take a deep dive into it. Let's start it off.
Let's talk. Let's have
let's
real
dissect
talk.
it. Yes, real talk with the Disney dudes right here.
So, what do you think has been some reasons that you've seen, and maybe people down below comment and give your thoughts as well? What are some reasons that people just are like, Disney, really? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think, especially when people hear how much I love the parks, they're like, oh, isn't that a kid's park? Like, why don't you go to Six Flags? Why don't you go to Cedar Point? I'm like, well, that's the thing. Usually a lot of people who ask me that, or who have to ask me that, have never gone down to Disney, or maybe they did when they were 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
So they don't realize that it caters to adults. And it's just that sense of nostalgia, that warm-hearted feeling you get when you step into the parks. I mean, Disney does such a great job, and I don't think they are willing to give that a chance again. Because one of my friends, he doesn't really care for Disney, and he doesn't want to go to Disney World. And for me, I've been trying for the longest time to get him to come with me, at least for a day, because it will change his mind. They need to open up their minds to it, or just understand that there's a lot more that Disney World offers than just to kids.
Yeah. I feel like, getting on the topic of the parks, I think people have this mentality that since it is for kids, they see all like the commercials and everything like that.
Sure,
and
yeah.
You just kiddie rides. And to be fair, I mean, it is very much geared towards families and kids and things like that.
Right.
I mean, the whole thing was built around Walt wanted a place, that he could take his kids that was family oriented, right?
Right.
But I think the thing that people tend to forget is that Disney has to not only appease kids, obviously, but they also have adults there that have to spend all this money. So they gotta
bring their kids down there.
So they got to make it enjoyable for
Right.
the adults too. So I mean, that's where and again you hear Magic Kingdom is for kids and Epcot is for the adults, right?
Yeah, that's right. Like those memes, like you have Magic Kingdom parents and Epcot parents.
Yeah.
It's night and day, like The Hangover, and then like these really prim and proper,
Yeah, like
etiquette
the
people.
Yeah, I love those.
I know. Gives me a chuckle every time.
And then it's like, I have my glass of wine in both parks.
Oh,
And I don't even like wine.
wine's all right.
It's okay. So yeah, I mean, I think there's that thing that people just don't get because they assume that Disney parks all have to be little kiddie rides.
Right.
They all have, you get Mickey in your face every 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's annoying. It's all that. But I feel like what they don't get is one, they don't get or conceptualize. I think if they were pushed, they would say yes and say, oh yeah, well obviously I know that. but they don't really think about it, so they don't really delve into that. Which is, yes, they do. Disney has to appease and also do things that adults will like very much. So there is that aspect. Now, don't get me wrong, as a dad, it's fun to go down there and be down there, but like I love much more seeing my kids now doing that. It's kind of like when you were a kid, you think the greatest thing is opening presents on Christmas Day, but then once you have kids, you realize the greatest thing about that is seeing your kids on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So like your perspective changes so much.
Sure. Yeah, I can't wait for that to happen to me too.
So I think there's that aspect of it. So I think there's that, but then the other thing too is with the parks. When people think, oh, Disney parks, that's so, I just don't get it. Why would you want to do that? There's so many other places to go. True, there are tons of other places, but like that's the thing. Like Six Flags, there's a Six Flags 45 minutes away from us. It's not that far.
Yeah.
And Six Flags is good. I mean, it's meant to be a roller coaster place. That's all it's meant to be. It's not meant to be like an immersive, themed park.
Yeah.
And so that's where that difference is.
That's very well said. And yeah, perfect segue. A lot of people, I get asked this question all the time after they find out how many times I've been to Walt Disney World. I've been to Walt Disney World 28 times by the time of this recording. And they keep asking me, why do you keep coming back? Why don't you go somewhere else? Doesn't it get boring because you go to the same exact place? I'm like, that's the thing. Disney World is so sprawling that they're always doing some type of refurbishment. They're adding a ride. They are now making it more inclusive or more engaging with different festivals at Epcot. There's so many things that are going around and things that I still have not tried. Talk about the dine-in restaurants. I know you're a huge fan of that, and one that I'm trying to get into. Just there's so many things that they do so well that you want to do again. It's not like a one and done thing with a lot of other boardwalks or other theme parks. There's a lot of rides that you want to go and do over and over and over again that will never get old. There are new restaurants, there's new rides, there's new experiences, and that combined with the sense of nostalgia and sentiment of me going there ever since I was basically 6 years old. I mean, it's very powerful, those two things combined.
And there's that other aspect too that I look at it as like when you're looking at those different aspects. Like I remember hearing a statistic, and I think it was when like Disney brought famous hosts for TV shows to come down to Disney.
Okay.
Kind of like help spearhead their like marketing. And I forgot what the girl's name was, but I forgot who she was. But she did a whole thing about like Disney and all this stuff and why you should, what is it like doing that? I think it might have been for DVC specifically. I'm not 100% sure. But she essentially said that, and she might have gotten this from Disney, and it may be true. It probably is true. I don't know. But she said there's so much stuff that you could stay at Disney every single day for an entire year and still not have done everything that Disney has to offer.
Hard to believe, right? But that's the truth.
It's probably very true.
Yeah.
Because think about it. Like, let's say you do one thing per day that you didn't do the day before. Now, obviously, like, if I go to the Magic Kingdom, like, you can go there as many days as you want, like, obviously. But, like, the amount of restaurants that are there, the amount of quick service meals, the amount of different, shows, stores, just, like, all the different resorts, all the different...
Yeah, resort hopping is a thing, too. Like, just so many things that are not marketed to the extent like some of the rides or some of the parks are marketed. Like there's some great stuff in the resorts that you can definitely get a hold of and enjoy yourself maybe even more than going to some part of the park because it's insanely less busy than the parks. And again, it's that total immersive quality. Not only are you dealing with some great parks, but with the resorts, you're stepping into a certain part, a certain theme that's just taking you over.
Yeah. And so so segueing into the resorts now. That's the other thing people who are like on Disney, they have this mindset, and this is something that I have to talk with people. I constantly get asked and told me and my wife get told all the time from our friends when we go to Disney we gotta go with you guys because we're like the Disney experts.
Yeah.
And so you know what to do, you know what to make your dollars really stretch. and things like that. But people always have this mentality about when you stay at a Disney resort. Once again, it's that like Mickey Mouse is gonna get shoved down my throat. I'm like, dude, that's like, I feel like that's far from the truth.
It is.
I mean, there are some resorts that, like, if you go to like the All Stars, there's some
Art of Animation.
But once again, they have redone them to make them more modernized.
Yes.
So, but I think a lot of the resorts are very much structured to have those Disney touches and hints, but not be overtly like, here's Goofy, here's Donald Duck, here's Mickey Mouse.
They're essentially like a mini vacation.
Yes.
To your Disney vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're really excited because that's why, like, me and my wife were going to the
Old Key West.
Old Key West. My brain kept on going to Beach Club.
Right. Oh,
And I'm like,
home resort.
But like
100%.
we're going to Old Key West,
Yeah.
and so like the DVC structure that's Disney's timeshare, and their structure is very much based around like this is where you stay. So everything is kind of centered around like you're gonna be staying here, and it's not it's like a hotel, but the DVC mindset behind it is like you go there, you chill, you hang out, and it's a lot more laid back. But I feel like a lot of the resorts, especially once you get to the deluxe resorts, much more toned back.
Yes, different ball game. Yeah.
Much more toned down on all
it's like
that
their
stuff.
own world.
Yeah.
And they pride themselves in that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just can't imagine, like, when we've been to the Beach Club, the Grand Floridian, all those places, I'm like, they're very nice hotels, and you don't even realize that you're on Disney property anymore. Like, that's how, like,
very well said.
very classy they are.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like a nice perk. Like, oh, you're in this enclosed mini vacation with walking distance or driving distance to the most famous theme park in the world. So
Exactly.
great benefit.
Yeah, and so I mean, kind of dovetailing into other things that people don't like, or maybe not. I mean, I wouldn't say don't like. They're like, oh, I just don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
So like for me, it's like another thing that comes up is like I love Disney music. Now, a lot of people love Disney music, but like people aren't quite like me to that level.
Mm-hmm.
Where part of the fun that I have sometimes is going on YouTube and looking up different covers of Disney songs, and that's how I found Jonathan Young. Jonathan Young is my boy.
He's amazing.
Him and Caleb Hales.
Yes, yeah.
Like, he does a lot of collaborations with him. Peter Hollins. A lot of those guys. I mean, like, they do so many Disney covers, and I just love them because you hear, Kiss a Girl or Circle of Life or,
the
Tarzan, like
songs.
all of them. You've heard them in a certain way from the Disney movies, and that's how you hear them. But when you hear them from like other covers, other ways of doing it, it's just really fun. And I like Disney music, and I like hearing them in different ways.
Yeah.
Same thing with like all music, but like as a Disney fan, like that's like, so like for non-Disney fans, they like Disney music enough. They're like, yeah, I like it. I grew up in,
it's fun, it's boppy, it's kiddish.
Yeah, but like for us, we like it so much because it's like there's a lot of great stuff to it and depth to it that it's like this is part of my music playlist.
Yep, it tells a story and like just a composition. Like they hire some world-class musicians, writers, composers.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, when I was living at the lake house, you showed me some scores and music from, was it Lion King 2?
Yeah, Lion King 2, Simba's Pride.
Yeah, some of those, I'm like, oh my lord, these are amazing. I've never heard those before. So like, I could add that to my catalog. I mean, when I'm studying or if I just want some relaxing music, like I go on YouTube, I do like a piano medley.
Yes.
Because like, all those arrangements are just so classic and they're very, very catchy. They're pleasing to the ear. I mean, it's just, how can you not like Disney music?
Yeah, because, okay, I'll get you guys into a little bit of my nerddom. So when Let It Go was big,
Yeah.
like everybody was making an arrangement of this song. So I was listening to tons of different like arrangements of it, and like so many famous artists from like different countries were making their version of Let It Go. And I love language. I think like listening to songs in different languages is
fun.
Amazing. I love it. So it's like I was listening to a bunch of it's so amazing because everybody knows that like Disney music, there's something about Disney music that always just like everybody in the world gets behind for some reason, right? So that's the thing. It's like you have people who are very much like You know, like I'm hardcore into rap, or I'm hardcore into heavy metal,
Sure.
or like, you know, I'm only about classical music or only jazz music, right? And that's totally fine. You can like your own genres. But everybody, when you start playing, you know, The Circle of Life, everybody and anybody from each genre is like, yes.
Yep. Eyes light up like, okay, I'm interested.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the weird thing. It's like Disney just is like, I'm going to bring you all together here. Right? Kind of like they're doing to the whole world. I'm going to buy you all.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's even more so today than ever.
And so, I mean, that's one of the things that I feel like people are kind of like, I don't get it. Like once again, they get conceptually they get it, but they don't
On like a base level.
yeah, but they don't
Yeah.
like get to that level of like, this is part of what makes me who I am.
True.
And I feel like for a lot of Disney fans, it's not because we don't appreciate other things. We have just found that there is something there that wasn't there before.
Beauty and the Beast.
But that it's so crazy. Like there's something that Disney just did. Walt and Roy Disney just did something well.
Yeah, lightning in a bottle.
And it just keeps
Those
growing.
two.
Now, whatever views you have on, you know, certain CEOs and managers and whatever throughout
Directions they
Disney,
take, yeah.
but they still know what they're doing. Like, regardless of how you feel about the new Star Wars trilogy, yeah, some people may not like that. That's fine. You may not like the new Star Wars trilogy. But they freaking knocked it out of the park with Marvel. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, Disney is like, oh man, Disney's not doing too well. Yeah, well, freaking the internet broke the day that Disney Plus came out. Like, I'm pretty sure
It did.
the internet literally just crashed.
Yeah. It imploded on itself. Like, it
Like-
could not withstand, it could not even comprehend what was going to happen.
So it's one of those things where it's like, yes, Disney isn't a perfect company, and sometimes they mess things up or make bad choices.
Right.
But like that's the thing. Like we as Disney people, we stick behind Disney because there's that understanding of like, yeah, we know they have their mess ups, but as a whole, like they know what they're doing.
Right. And it seems like, I mean, more people are coming out of the woodwork saying that they are Disney fans. I think there still are a lot of closet Disney fans because, again, it's that moniker of like, oh, it's, you know, for kids or you'll be made fun of, yada, yada, yada. But for me, like, I'm not ashamed. Like, I wear that proudly as you do.
Yeah.
And people get behind it or they're able to understand because we know so much, we feel so much about Disney. It's like even watching and rewatching Disney films, like especially the animated features. People are like, why do you
go
keep...
into the films now?
Yeah, see, perfect segues. Like, for me, like, why do I keep rewatching it? Like, oh, for me, though, I've always been entranced by animation. And Disney is leaps and bounds, like, the best animation studio out there.
Like I don't understand why they have an animation category anymore because it's like you mean a Disney
You
category.
mean Disney, yeah, right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There are those times other companies do well,
Right,
like
Blue Sky or DreamWorks.
yeah, like the other year, Sony came out with the Spider-Man
Yes.
Into the Spider-Verse.
I
that
love
was
that.
the best animated movie of the year
That was amazing.
because
yeah.
it was so unique and
Yes.
it very much deserved it. I love that movie.
Yes, I know.
Very much
Speaking of,
deserved it.
I should watch that again. But yeah, to the animated features of Disney, not only, I mean, you roll in the music, like
Yep.
the Disney music already there, you have me. But animation style, I love I'm just amazed at how they're able to tell a story, to craft it, making it feel so engaging, to make you feel for those characters.
Oh my gosh!
I mean-
me and my wife just watched Soul like a month and a half
Okay,
ago.
I haven't yet.
And like at first we were like, but as we got along, we were like, oh, I'm liking this more. I'm liking this
Uh-huh.
more. By the end of the movie, my wife was like in tears
True Disney fashion.
because she was like in tears, and I was like, because whenever my wife starts getting in tears, I can look over at her, and because there are times when I know,
Like, you know, right,
And
you've
so
been with her
I
for
look
so
over
long.
at her, and I'm like, are you crying? She's like, no, and then she starts kicking me on the couch. She's like, leave me alone. And then she very much liked the ending of that movie and the message it
Okay.
gave. So
Okay, I'll have to watch it. Watch it.
and I think you're gonna love it. It has a lot of jazz music in there.
I'm a fan of jazz.
So I mean, it's really really good. But it's like you said, yeah. I mean, the way they bring you into the story as well.
Yeah, I mean they care about the movies they put out. It's not just for a buck. It's not just, hey, we're gonna copy and paste, cookie cutter it. We take the time, we do the research. That's why, like in the Disney Renaissance, you know, they were sending their creative teams out to like
all
certain,
over the place, all over the world,
just so they can get it correct. They can get the style right. They can get the music, the flair, everything, and it paid off.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just imagine to be a part of that team. Oh my God, that would be a dream come true.
So, but like this is where what people don't understand about like the reason why we like Disney too is like there's a level of depth that people will never get or understand unless you're a Disney freak like us.
Right.
And here's one of the big things. So like, I'll take a good example. There's a series on Disney Plus. I think it's called One Day or A Day in Life or something like that. And they go through like tons of different people that work at Disney. And we're not talking like CEO. We're not talking about Bob Iger. Not even gonna mention Chapek, but like, you know what I'm saying.
Shall not be named.
But like all these people, but like they do stories on people that you would think get no say. Like a guy who literally his job is just to take concrete and pour it. But not just like pour it on the ground, but like put it on like artwork and like make it look more real. Like on.
Oh sure.
And so it's like so crazy. But then they talk about like, hey, they did a whole story on, here's your job. You're a mechanical engineer, but we need you to do the mechanical engineering on everything that's under the water. So any rides, anything that has to go with under the water that we can't rip up the infrastructure, you have to be that engineer. Nobody thinks about that job.
Right.
Nobody thinks about that job.
It gets overshadowed.
But then you think about it like from guys like that to people who are literally like you think about them, but then it goes as far reaching as, hey, you're now working for us at Disney, but you're in charge of our Broadway shows. And then you think about like, oh, you're also in charge of the casting.
Oh my Lord.
Across the world to bring these people in. And then it's like, hey, you're one of the main managers and producers and casting agents for Disney kids TV shows.
That's
Then
so
there's
cool.
another thing that I saw. It was just so
Just
cool. It's
keep
like
building off of
It's
it,
like,
yeah.
hey, you're now the spokes person and Radiohead for the Disney Radio program.
Oh That's awesome.
So it's like there's that level of like Disney is so far reaching and people like. So when I was watching that series, my wife's like, "You want to quit your job, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of do."
Pretty much. Yep. I'd be right behind you on that.
Because there's like so much, and it's like that's the thing. It's like it's just crazy. Like there was a story about like in there. It's like there's this kid who was like, I grew up wanting to do Marvel, and I love doing all this stuff. And he's like, and now I work for Disney, and part of my thing is creating and coming up with new comics for Marvel. And because of Disney.
What a job.
And so
And it's not even a job.
Yeah.
It's just like living your childhood fantasy.
But then like there's something even crazy. There's also another crazy job that like, hey, Disney has, I forgot what the department is called, but essentially it's here's a lot of money.
Just like you're taking.
Come up with stuff. So like one of the things is they're creating mechanical machines that look like human beings, but they're engineering them so they can be for like safety, because they can't do this with people. But they shoot these like humanoid robots like 80 feet in the air, but they're literally working on how to make them look human and move and flip and turn and do stuff like human beings.
I think I've seen that. Yeah, like they're working on that for like the Spider-Man's. Like they can do
Yeah.
that. Like he can like web sling.
Yeah, so it's
throughout the park.
Yeah.
That blew my mind. I had to rewatch that 3 separate times at least. I'm like, let me just wrap my head around that. How are they doing this? Like,
Yeah.
is this real life right now? You
And
know?
then you're thinking about it like think about it. Me and you, like, we could go work at DVC and sell DVC contracts.
Right.
But then you have people like it's so crazy. Like they have another job where, here's your job. You work for Adventures by Disney. You have to be in this part of the country. You already live there, so you're gonna be doing these tours. it's just, and then it's not even to mention you have the Disney Cruise Line, and then you have Disney Tokyo, just
Right.
like,
All the other
and so it's
parks.
like the amount of stuff Disney has. Now, I think the number one, I think the top employer in the United States is Walmart, followed by
Okay.
Disney.
Okay. Yeah.
But
That tracks.
yeah, it's so crazy because that's one of the things that I think, like, what people don't get is, like, why we love Disney is because, like, we take the time to try to see that stuff. Because yes,
Yes.
yes,
That's a
people
good
think
point.
Disney for kids, but it's like Disney fans realize what's going on.
It's like an iceberg. Like you have the people who just like Disney, casual fan. That's the tip.
Yeah.
But what's underneath is so much more enriching, and you're able to get behind it, and that's where we are. And I mean, I still haven't touched upon nearly like the whole underside of the iceberg. I'm still working my way, and every new leaf I turn, I just fall more and more in love with Disney.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, how are they doing this? They're doing that? How is that possible?
Yeah.
And not only of like what they currently are doing, but they're continuing to create, to
Or
build,
redo.
to redo. Yeah, it's just, again, it's this amazing cycle that just progresses. It sustains itself, makes it better.
Like the behind the scenes thing. I don't know if it was on Disney Plus or it was on like those special features of the
Okay.
movie, but like all the stuff that they did for the remake of The Lion King with Jon Favreau.
Okay,
It's like
Yeah.
insane the amount of stuff that they did for that.
yeah.
But like
The lengths they went to on that
but
movie.
it's so nuts. So it's like, so there's so many different things that Disney does, and it's just, I think it's just insane.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
I think there's more we could talk about, but I think that was a good idea of like, there are some things that people don't get, but like it's really hard for us to really put into detail.
It
like,
is.
but like for people who
But
don't
you
like,
guys get it. You
Yeah.
get it. And please let us know, from one Disney fanatic to another, why you love Disney so much. Let us know in the comments.
yes. So that was pretty much all we had today, you
Yeah.
guys. It's just that we get like sometimes people don't understand, and like we get that people don't understand. But that's part of like with Disney is like, not forcing people, but like, enlightening them of like, this is what Disney is about. It's much more than what you think. Like, if you think about the capacity of what Disney does, this is why it's so great.
Mm-hmm.
It's really amazing what Disney does.
Yeah, if you just take a chance to like sit back, breathe, and really focus on it, a lot of doors will open up that you'll find and say,
Enjoy.
hey, yeah, this is definitely something for every kind of person in the world.
Exactly. All right, you guys, that will be the end of this episode. Once again, like, comment, subscribe below. That definitely helps out this channel.
Yes, please do. We appreciate it. And this is your only place to get your Disney fix.
Peace.